They say that home is where the heart is. I can't exactly relate to that saying, though. When I was 2, my family and I left our small hometown in a hurry and never looked back. They've always refused to explain. Whenever I tried to ask about it and eventually gave up on asking, I managed to dig up when we left, which was December 21st, 2003. When I say my hometown was small, I mean it. Maybe a population of 100 or less. We made do as a small community, or so I've been told. All I know, location-wise, is that it was somewhere in Maine. I managed to find an old map with the town on it. Doesn't even show the name. Other maps don't even show it, like it vanished. About a month or so ago, I began to pack stuff up for a trip. Without telling my parents, I planned to go visit the town. The goal was to try and find out if it still existed and find out why we left. I've been planning this trip for a few years now. I've been saving up money to be able to go and pay for gas. We live in Virginia right now, so 12-ish hour drive. I'll just skip any other background details, along with the drive itself. I've been in my hometown for about 3 days. At the time of me shakily typing this out, not much seemed off when I arrived, other than my GPS shutting off. When I reached the town, my Wi-Fi also cut off, so thank God for data. Other than that, my first day was simple enough. The town's population had nearly halved in the 2 decades I've been gone, but they seemed to still be going strong. I was given an empty home as a makeshift hotel. It was weird during those first few hours. I got the house, was given a short tour, and left to my own. I didn't even have to pay for anything. They said that they already knew who I am, and they welcomed me with open arms, almost like I had always lived there. The house itself wasn't anything special, wasn't really lived in but had furniture. Going to the local shops, I found that the streets were empty, not a soul in sight. The only people I saw were cashiers, and even then they had an empty feeling, like staring into a chasm with no sense of a bottom. Their pupils were almost as dark to match. They just stared while I shopped, not saying a word. I was pretty eerie. I had bought some random vegetables and spices to try and attempt making a meal, but it ended up going wrong, so it doesn't matter. The first actual thing to scare me so far happened when I left the shops. The street I was on had everyone on it. They were all just staring at me. The entire time I went back to the donated house, they even followed to keep staring. I felt my heart rate rising as I approached the house. Some were getting closer. I turned the knob and slowly opened the door. Then I looked back, and they were all gone. Not vanished, but there were less people, and they were behaving like regular people, just walking around town. I quickly entered the house and locked the door after that. After that whole fiasco, I decided to call my parents to tell them how I was doing. I had to keep up the ploy that I was actually in Wisconsin. I had to choose somewhere basically as far as the town. They always seemed to act strangely if I ever mentioned the town, no less visiting it, so I thought it was best to go in secret. The call went smoothly until my mother asked me in a suddenly stark tone and hushed voice if I had seen something she referred to as the stars. She said they weren't literal stars though. They were eyeless people who would stalk people for years on years, right until that person entered their hunting grounds. She told me she knew where I was and I wasn't safe. Then she laughed it all off and went off about that all being nonsense, but something tells me that it wasn't. I grew up knowing everything happens for a reason. That night I set up my phone to record the front door while I was asleep, but it was limited because I had to keep it charging throughout the night. I had a hunch that I needed to record at least something, anything. So, with the thought of those things she mentioned, I left my phone to record. On the second day, I immediately went to review that night's footage. It absolutely tore through my storage, so I knew I could only record that one video. Throughout the night, things came in and left my house. They looked like townsfolk, specifically those that were staring at me, and they were staring at the camera the entire time. They knew. I felt my anxiety starting to grow. While I watched the footage, if there weren't any streetlights, they'd probably look like little stars moving around because their eyes glowed in the dark. Not like they were being reflected, no. They produced light. They made silhouettes of each other. Their eyes were bright enough, and one of them went upstairs. Where I was, I recalled a sense of being watched in my sleep. I know now that I was. They all eventually left when the sun began rising, but they did leave something for me. I found a slip of paper. When I woke up, it had 3 drawings on it, scratch marks, some eyes, and then a grave. They were each marked with a date. Yesterday was the scratch marks. Tonight will be the eyes. Tomorrow is the grave. I sort of freaked out a little bit when I saw the paper, but it was mostly confusion. I did have a decent bit of anxiety for the night though. Other than that, I wasted the day reviewing the footage from the previous night. What a stupid mistake. I wasted time trying to figure out what happened. I went to bed pretty late and hungry. I had a dream last night, the day of the scratch marks. I was sort of flying in the sky over the town. It was a cold night, snow covered the ground. A little bit into the dream, the stars above me suddenly started falling into the ground, sinking through the earth. One of them grabbed me and dragged me down with it. It was like a person, but with giant glowing wings. It was so bright I couldn't see its face, but I could just feel those eyes staring at me. It screeched and started scratching me all over. My face, my arms, stomach, legs, everywhere. Everything except for my eyes. It did something to my eyes. Tore them out, replaced them, then I woke up. I woke up screaming, and in a cold sweat, and in pain. Lots and lots of pain. Something had broken through the window of my room, and attacked me in the night. There were long, thin scratch marks all over my body, not deep enough to bleed, but just deep enough to be read. The drawing came true. My dream was true. I had a horrible feeling. It had stolen my eyes. I was sure of it. I don't know what did, but it did. Those stars did. I sort of panicked about that all morning. At the time of my writing this, it's almost 5 p.m. My eyes seem normal. I found some basic medical supplies in the house, so I sort of treated the wounds and hoped they didn't get infected. I'm too scared to leave now. I feel like whatever those stars were, whatever those people who stare are, they'll follow me. I'm scared for my mom and dad. I should have just trusted that the town wasn't a place to return to. I'm scared they'll go for my parents. God damn it. I'll be staying through the rest of today and through tomorrow. I managed to get all of this rambling to one of my friends. Thank God again for data. I told her as much as I could, and after I post this, my account is forfeit to her. I don't want them to have this account. I will return whenever I leave this town with the truth. Until then, I hope I can see you all soon. Before I start, here's the link to my last post. It's Thursday now. I'll try to respond to some of you all this time. I couldn't last night for, surprisingly, unrelated reasons. I also didn't provide a name for myself last post. It doesn't matter much, but whatever. All my friends call me Mikey, so that's what we'll be going with from now on. I'm no longer in the town as of the time I'm writing this. I have to personally apologize to you, Rainy Melon. I'm stupid, and it was really stupid for me to go to the town. But I'm not staying in that place for another night. Tonight was the gravestone, and I am not willing to figure out what was going to happen, especially after last night, which was the eyes. You had a good suggestion, but I think you would all appreciate if I made an update post, maybe one day in late December. So, what happened? Where am I now? How much do my parents know? And have I found the truth? I'll answer this all out of order, starting with the middle two, to what happened, and then about the truth. As of the time I am writing this post, I'm currently in a motel in Massachusetts. I needed time to think and rest after last night. I managed to grab my car, which wasn't taken thankfully despite being left completely unattended. I've also managed a stable internet and Wi-Fi connection again, so that's good. I talked to my friend to tell her I was decently okay. She helped calm me down a bit, but my nerves were still frayed. After that, I went to contact my parents. I'd be lying if I said they told me anything of importance, but I told them everything. They weren't exactly angry, but I could tell they weren't happy either. We'll have a talk when I get home, and they promised to tell the truth, the entire truth. They think I deserve it. Before I continue, one last thing. To all the others who said something, yeah, this was a horrible idea, but call it stupidity, curiosity, or whatever you want. I have my reasons for wanting to go to my hometown. I do regret this experience. I'm scared, especially for tonight. I wasn't able to confirm if the dreams would only occur in the town's boundaries or not, but that was all background stuff. I'll start getting into what happened last night. When I went to bed, I wasn't able to set up my phone to record last night since my storage was full and couldn't record anymore. Sleep did find me pretty easily despite my situation. I had another dream last night. It was similar to my previous dream. I was in the sky overlooking the town. It was night again, but this time, the town was littered with misshapen holes all over, going deep into the earth. Suddenly, they all started blinking at me, the ground shifting organically, with invisible pupils tearing into me. I screamed at them, not in fear, but in agony. I felt my body starting to rip and be pulled apart, my everything twisted and shredded into strands of blood and bone. Think of it like being turned into spaghetti, but you have to watch every second of it. And yet, I didn't die. I was reduced to just my eyes. Of course, it was just my eyes. I watched in now silent horror as those strands coalesced in front of me, twisting into a new form. The stars fell before I could see this new form complete itself. Though, a star grabbed me again and screeched at me. I could still hear. In fact, I could move. I was the star for those final moments of the dream. I couldn't move or control myself though, as lucidity collapsed. The star, removed its eyes and replaced them with my own. The dream ended with it howling loudly. I woke up to that same howl outside, just as something large and heavy crashed into the street outside. I heard it scream and loudly scramble about before it just died. I don't know how. I knew it was dead, but I wasn't sure why I knew it was dead. All I knew was that it was dead, it wouldn't be there when I went outside, and that I needed to leave now. So I grabbed my phone, packed up in a haste, left and booked it out of the house. I froze when I was out of the door. The street was littered with holes, small size, and shapes of those in the dream. I swear one of them blinked and looked at me. I had to shake off the feeling of them watching me and just run. And those stupid staring people were back. They crawled out of some of the holes and started to sprint at me. I only looked back for a second, but there was a huge swarm of them running at me. I've got no good estimation of the amount of them, but they were loud, louder than anything I've ever heard. I made it outside of the town limits before they could reach me. Damned sons of a bitches stopped at the limits. They just stood there quietly, slowly turned around, and walked off. They did maintain their stare though. Their heads did a full 180 just so they could keep staring. I just stood there and watched as they walked away and fell into the holes in the street, vanishing. I didn't stick around for long though. I started running again and went to where my car was left, and then I drove. That was earlier this morning. I've gotten a chance to look myself over now. I look terrible. My hair is in a mess, and there's patches that just seem to have been ripped out. My skin is covered in these thin lines and spirals all over it, never crossing, but always remaining about the same thickness. It's like I got cuts all over again, but this time they healed and became scars. It all hurts like a bitch. It's constant, but just in the background. And my eyes, they aren't mine anymore. My eyes were brown before, but now they're this yellow, and my pupil itself is completely different. It's rectangular, like a goat's, and the whites of my eyes aren't white anymore. They're this murky gray. If I was smaller and could reach into my own eye, it looks like it would feel like dipping my hands into mud. My vision itself didn't change, which it should probably have, just how my eyes look. I think I actually swapped eyes with one of those star things. I touched one of them out of curiosity, and I couldn't feel it. It was in the socket, and I can see through it, but something isn't connecting it to my nervous system. I'll get back on the move tomorrow. My goal is to make it the remaining 8-ish hour trip back, get my answers, maybe make one final update to help conclude everything. But there's one last thing bugging me. I feel like I've been hearing that howl throughout the day. I'll see you all again soon, after I have my answers. Until then, stay safe you all. Mikey, over and out. Oh, and one last thing. Maybe don't wish on a star tonight.